Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, and today I'm here to give you guys my list of the top 10 arcs in Star Wars The Clone Wars. If you guys haven't seen my videos of the top 5 episodes in each season of Clone Wars, I highly encourage you to go and check those videos out under my Star Wars ranked playlist. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, let me know what your favorite arcs in the Clone Wars are in the comments below. For this list, I will be ranking my favorite arcs based off of the animated series and not the books and comics. I think if Son of Dathomir and Dark Disciple were shown on screen, they would have been on this list, but instead you can thank Disney for that not happening. But before we get into this list, here are a few honorable mentions. The Bad Batch, Season 7, the arc that kicked off the return of Clone Wars and introduced us to Clone Force 99, also known as The Bad Batch. I must admit, I really enjoyed this arc a lot more than I thought I would, and I can't wait for the new show. Wrecker is definitely my favorite, even if he's afraid of heights. Hey, everyone's afraid of something.
Cuttlefish.
The Night Sister Trilogy, Season 3, the arc that started to take Clone Wars to a whole new level. This is where we start to see many of our characters with different looks and attires than what they had before. This arc had many amazing lightsaber duels, and while Ventress and Savage vs. Dooku was great not just for the fight but the music as well, I don't think anyone will forget Ventress and two of her fellow Night Sisters take on Dooku in his pajamas. Shout out to EA for putting that as a playable skin for Dooku in Battlefront 2, I love it. And finally, the second Battle of Geonosis, Season 2. What I loved about this arc so much is every episode had a different feel to it. The first episode had World War II movie vibes. The second episode felt like your typical Star Wars The Clone Wars plot of a battle scene and someone sneaking behind enemy lines. The third episode had a Call of Duty Zombies mode vibe, and the fourth episode had an Aliens vibe. So, without further ado, let's get into the list itself. Here we go. Starting out at number 10, Obi-Wan Undercover Season 4. With a plot to kidnap the Chancellor imminent, Obi-Wan must fake his own death and go undercover as bounty hunter Rako Hardeen to uncover the plot. Along the way, he teams up with Moralo Ival and Cad Bane to break out of prison and reach Sereno to take part in Dooku's competition. And that competition is the box. By the way, that particular episode was phenomenal. The funny part is, in the end, this arc was never about the bounty hunters and Obi-Wan. It was about Palpatine getting Anakin and Dooku in the same place at the same time so Palpatine could see Anakin's progression as a Jedi for himself. It's rather genius if you think about it. Here's the funniest part of this whole arc. In that final episode when Bane gets captured, it's a red armored clone trooper that captures him. Then the next shot is of Obi-Wan and Windu, and then the shot cuts back to Bane, and instead of red armor, the guy is now wearing all white armor. All credit goes to my brother for pointing this out to me, and now every time I see it, I laugh my ass off. At number 9, the Citadel arc, Season 3. After Jedi Council member Evan Peel was captured, Obi-Wan and Anakin go with a small strike team to rescue him from the Citadel, a prison designed to hold Jedi. The team would rescue Peel along with his captain, and his name was Tarkin. He's just as big of a dick in this show as he is in A New Hope. This arc had two sad death scenes between Peel and clone trooper Echo. Little did we know about Echo's true fate at the time. The arc ended with our heroes being escorted back to Coruscant with the help of Plo Koon, whom also took responsibility for assigning Ahsoka Tano to the mission. Something I really enjoyed at the end of that episode is when Tarkin and Anakin shake hands at the end and the dark side theme is playing in the background. It's such a small thing, but I love it. At number 8, Yoda's Journey, The Lost Missions, also known as Season 6 now, I guess. After the Jedi learned Dooku was the one who created the clone army and not Sifo Dyas, Yoda meditates and comes into contact with the voice of Qui-Gon Jinn, who tells him to go to Dagobah. There he foresees Order 66 and the death of his fellow Jedi at the hands of Sidious. He then makes his way to a planet with a golden nebula where the Grand Master is trained by the 5 Force priestesses to learn how to meditate his consciousness after death. His training takes him to the Sith homeworld Morabon. There he encounters Darth Bane's Sifo Dyas and has a fight with Sidious. The priestesses tell Yoda that he will continue to be trained by Qui-Gon Jinn. When Yoda returns to Coruscant, he tells Obi-Wan and Mace Windu that he's found a way to not win the Clone Wars, but the war for all time. This arc went deep into the core of what Star Wars is, and that's all about the Force. It also digs deeper into Yoda's character. He goes in thinking he knows it all because he's a Grand Master, and I guess it makes sense he'd have that mindset, but he quickly learns that he still has much to learn when it comes to the Force. But through the help of the priestesses, he is able to do that. Now, about Moraband. I've said this before, but because George Lucas changed the name from Korriban to Moraband, simply because he liked the name Moraband better, I have no problem with it, because at the end of the day, it was George's franchise and he could do whatever he wanted. Now, if someone like a Kathleen Kennedy would have made that decision, I would have been mad because she'd have no right to do so. George created Star Wars, so to me, I will always go by what he says because he's the reason Star Wars is here in the first place. So if he calls it Moraband, so will I. At number 7, Maul's Resurrection Arc, Season 4. This arc starts off focusing more on Asajj Ventress, returning to her homeworld of Dathomir, watching her clan die, and then going on to help Boba Fett's crew and become a bounty hunter. The final episodes of that arc were more about Maul. Savage would spend one episode finding him, and the next he would be fighting alongside him as they would capture and torture Obi-Wan Kenobi. Getting to see Mother Talzin create Maul's new legs out of battle droid scraps was cool, but the coolest part of that arc was seeing the tag battle between Obi-Wan and Ventress versus Maul and Savage. The first time I watched that battle, I was on the edge of my seat because I knew that 3 of the 4 people in that fight could die. At number 6, the Onderon arc, Season 5. I feel like this arc is so underrated. It tells a good story that pretty much foreshadows the rebellion. Both Saw Gerrera and Lux Bonteri would go on to become rebels in the future, so it definitely makes sense that it would. In the first episode of this arc, Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex are sent to train the rebels. The following 3 episodes are about the rebels growing and progressing on their own, with Ahsoka monitoring them. Ahsoka struggles with the Jedi Council's idea of not helping the rebels physically, as she feels responsible for them, and it doesn't help that she clearly has feelings for Lux, though she's able to keep her emotions in check. It was probably a lot easier to do so when she saw Stila Gerrera kissing him. In the end, the rebels free Onderon, however, Stila died after falling off the edge of a cliff thanks to a separatist gunship shooting Ahsoka, which almost gave me a heart attack the first time I saw it. At number 5, Umbara, Season 4. Guys, it's in Umbara, of course it's going to be on the list. This arc has amazing visuals and a good story. We get to know more about the 501st clones in this arc, such as Rex, Fives, Jesse, Kix, Hardcase, Tup, and Dogma. Shout out to D. Bradley Baker for pretty much carrying this arc on his back. He was doing most of the voice work in this arc, as he not only played all the clones, but somehow got them to all sound different while sounding the same, a similar theme to, well, all of Clone Wars, to the point where I could even know who was talking if they weren't shown on screen. D. Bradley Baker doesn't get enough credit for the work that he does as the clones, and hopefully more people will understand that while watching Clone Wars or even in the Bad Batch show. This arc was all about the 501st having their backs against the wall, but somehow always managing to pull through. Between the Umbarans, their crazy-ass tanks and ships we've never seen before, and their own general who was trying his hardest to get them all killed without him actually doing it himself. And then he does do it himself, but was captured and killed in the process. Hardcase was probably the clone I enjoyed most of this arc, and because of that reason, he died. But I also enjoy Rex, Fives, and Jesse as well. At number 4, Mortis, Season 3. Probably the most mysterious arc in this whole show, as it leaves you with more questions than answers. While on their way to meet up with Rex, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka are taken into this giant monolith, and in it, Mortis. While there, they meet the father, son, and daughter, 3 beings that are more powerful in the Force than anyone in the galaxy. Well, maybe besides the Chosen One. In the first episode, each of our heroes has a unique encounter. Obi-Wan sees Qui-Gon, Ahsoka sees her future self, and Anakin sees his mother, in a scene that had to be redone because Dave originally had Anakin saying, "I have a wife, I want you to meet her." And Sam Witwer rightfully pointed out that, well, Shmi has already met Padme in The Phantom Menace, the one time that Dave was outsmarted when it comes to Star Wars references, and I would have paid to have been there to see it. In the second episode, the son kills both Ahsoka and the daughter, but per the wish of the daughter, her last act would be to breathe life into Ahsoka, saving her. In the final episode, Anakin is shown the future by the son, only for the father to take that memory away. Realizing the Jedi can't defeat his son, the father kills himself to take away the son's power, letting Anakin come in to deliver the final blow. Before the father dies, he tells Anakin that he is the chosen one, that he has brought balance to this world and he will do it again for the galaxy. And then the Jedi wake up in their ship en route to meet Rex, as if no time had passed. At number 3, Ahsoka's arc, Season 5, the infamous arc where Ahsoka is framed for blowing up the Jedi Temple. Seeing Ahsoka on the run with the clones and Anakin after her gave this arc some Order 66 vibes. I really enjoyed this arc because it's the arc that made me realize how much I truly loved Ahsoka. Seeing her journey for all these years and it leading to this moment where everything falls apart for her is very heartbreaking. She gets expelled from the Order and then is put on trial in the Senate, to which very few people believed Ahsoka's side. And if not for Anakin capturing the real culprit, Padawan Barriss Offee, things would not have been good for her. Barriss wasn't wrong in her speech about the Jedi, but it was the way that she went about proving her point that was wrong. What made me really upset is when everybody's apologizing to Ahsoka, and Mace Windu essentially goes, well, you know, this was always the plan, cause, you know, the Force works in mysterious ways, and it's like, really? Yoda invites her back into the Order, but Ahsoka rejects the offer and leaves. The final moments of this episode is a conversation between Anakin and Ahsoka, where Anakin is obviously upset by her leaving, and then goes, more than you realize, I understand wanting to walk away from the Order. And her response was, I know. And then she walks down the steps crying. And then Disney canceled Clone Wars. Fuck you, Disney. Shout out to Kevin Kiner, the music composer of the Clone Wars, for creating some of the most memorable themes in this show. Specifically the theme at the end credits of that episode, because by the end, my eyes were already watery, and then I teared up during the credits because of the music. At number 2, Maul's arc, Season 5. The Renegade Sith Lord had some of the most memorable arcs in this show, including this one. After failing to assemble an army of pirates and floating in deep space, Death Watch saves Maul and Savage and forms an alliance with the brothers to take over Mandalore. Along the way, they managed to recruit the Black Sun, Pikes, and Hutts to form the Shadow Collective. After claiming Mandalore, Maul would battle Pre Vizsla for the right to not only become Mandalore, aka the leader of the Mandalorians, but for the right to rule Mandalore the planet. This motherfucker throne room was used for several of the best lightsaber fights, not just in this show, but the franchise as a whole. Maul would kill Vizsla and rule, but not all agreed with his rule, including Bo-Katan. Maul lured Obi-Wan to Mandalore using Satine, only for Obi-Wan to fall into it and watch his girl die at the hands of Maul. But my favorite thing about this arc comes next. Palpatine, realizing Maul's starting to get a little big for his own good, has to shrink him back down to size. When Palpatine, also known as Darth Sidious, showed up, the entire mood changed. He force-choked 2 Mandalorians, some of the best warriors, if not the best warriors in the galaxy, and Palps took them down like they were nothing. He would then go on to fight Maul and Savage in that motherfucking throne room. Sidious is having the time of his life right now, as he normally doesn't get to do this, which also means when Sidious does show up, that something bad is going to happen, and it did. Sidious would kill Savage in front of Maul, and then proceed using Force Lightning on Maul, saying, "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. I have other uses for you." This arc made me realize why it was so important to bring Maul back from the dead. It's because there's so much more to his character than people realized, and it's all thanks to George Lucas, Dave Filoni, and the team that worked on the Clone Wars. And of course, behind every great character, there's a great voice, and there's no voice greater than Sam Witwer. At number 1, The Siege of Mandalore, Season 7. Before I get into this arc, let me say this. I was hurt when Clone Wars was cancelled. I loved that show more than anything, and I knew that there were so many more seasons planned for this show, but no thanks to Disney, that didn't happen. So I sat there just thinking about how Maul's story and Ahsoka's story aren't done yet. They just left us hanging, and I thought we were never gonna know. And then Rebels happened, where we were able to continue the story of both characters without them being the main focus of the show. But when you watch Twilight of the Apprentice for the first time, you realize that there's some form of history between Ahsoka and Maul. And if you're like me and you watched the Untold Tales of Ahsoka panel at Star Wars Celebration London 2016, you know that Dave talked a little bit about what was going to be in that final arc of Clone Wars, and that's the Siege of Mandalore. And when he started talking about it, I was hooked. And I remember thinking, gosh, I really wish we would have gotten this. Who would have guessed that a few years later we would? And I think think because of the higher budgets thanks to Disney, it looked a lot better now than it would have had we gotten it back then. I'm not excusing Disney for canceling the show because it should never have happened, but I'm also grateful that Dave was able to come back and give this show a proper finish, and on top of that, have better animation. They also had a better lightsaber fight, the best fight in the whole show. Instead of animating the fight between Ahsoka and Maul, they instead used people in mocap suits to choreograph the fight. Shout out to Lauren Mary Kim and Ray Park. After Ahsoka, Rex, and Bo-Katan, along with many clones and Mandos who fought alongside them, were able to reclaim Mandalore, Order 66 happened. Ahsoka fought her hardest to defend herself while trying not to kill any clones. She's able to remove Rex's inhibitor chip with the help of 3 droids, including R7, her personal droid that fought with her in several battles. Unfortunately, the droids would die, but Rex and Ahsoka were able to escape using a Y-Wing. After the Republic Venator crashed, Ahsoka and Rex would go back and bury all of the dead clones. Those were the only clones to get a proper burial. After who knows how much time has passed, the Empire arrives on the planet and Vader finds Ahsoka's lightsaber, where he assumes she's dead, and then looks up in the sky and sees Morai flying around. And that was the end of Clone Wars. I'm not crying, you are. So there you have it, guys. That was my list of the top 10 arcs in Star Wars The Clone Wars. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this video around, let me know in the comments what your favorite arcs from this show are, and I will see you guys soon.